everybody, welcome to No Plan, No Problem, a weekly D&D advice podcast where two dungeon masters go on a mythical quest, searching for those good tips for you to use in your next game. I'm your dungeon master, Anto.
And I'd like to cast Magic Missile, Matthew Perkins.
You can find me across the internet at icarus-games.co.uk.
And you can find all my stuff over at matthewperkins.net. Now, today, Anto, we are going to talk about those big old nerds, wizards. You know a wizard. Have you met a wizard?
I've met many wizards.
Oh, wow. Okay, that wasn't the answer I was expecting. Please stick to the script. So, a wizard is a class in Dungeons and Dragons. They're clearly a spellcaster, right? But they're distinct from other spellcasters because they get their magical powers in general from their knowledge and their study. Anybody can become a wizard. You just have to work hard and get good grades. They typically cast their spells from a spell book as opposed to a sorcerer who gets their magic innately, or a warlock who gets their spells from a Dark Pact, and a cleric who cares? We're talking about wizards. So, Anto, who is the first adventurer helping us quest for our tip for our... on our quest for our first tip? Who? Just read the question. What's the question?
I knew what you meant. So
Thank you.
The first adventurer helping us on our quest today is Taylor9961 from the D&D Beyond forum. And they're asking, can a wizard learn spells from a sorcerer? They say, hey everyone, quick question. I'm a new DM and I was asking if my group wizard can learn spells from the town sorcerer if he spent time with him.
Look, hey, my answer to every question is going to be yes.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, yeah, of course, because like there are some spells, like so every class in D&D has a list of spells that they can learn.
Yes.
And there are a finite number of spells, and in the big Venn diagram of all of these classes, there's some crossover. Like there are some spells that appear on the sorcerer list and that also appear on the wizard list. Like, I reckon, of course, they could learn from it, right? What do you think?
I don't see any reason why not. I'm pretty sure that as a wizard you can just add spells to your spellbook. I'm just looking on the D&D Beyond site at what it specifically says as per the rules written. But
now, Anto, I don't want the rules. I want your feelings.
I'm going to get to
feel?
my feelings.
Okay.
I'm interested to know whether the rules differ to my feelings, because I think the rules say a wizard has to kind of copy the spell, whereas I just say a wizard is going to be able to learn a spell. If you want to spend time with that sorcerer and spend your downtime with them, and that's going to give you a way to interact with them in roleplay, absolutely, you learn any spell you want.
Absolutely. So my understanding of the way that wizards learn spells, because you said that they have to copy it to their spell book. Like they have to have, they're such nerds, guys. If you ever see a wizard, they've got different colored pens for different classes of spell, different levels. And like this one, look, I've got white out in case I make a mistake on my spell book. Wizards. Such nerd. But anyway, you can't live with them, can't live without them. Now, they copy spells to their spellbook and they have to spend money in order to do that. And I think it's about 50 gold per spell level. And that money that they're spending on learning the spell isn't necessarily them like, hey, I'm going to pay this guy in the alleyway to teach me a spell. It's, it's because I need to use special ink. I need to use special paper. And also in my trials of learning this spell, in my experiments, I'm going to make mistakes, and the tougher the spell is, the more mistakes I'm going to make. So it's kind of represented in the time spent and the gold spent on the resources.
Yeah.
So as long as the wizard's willing to spend, that requisite, that time and that money, I reckon, you can learn, magic missile from the sorcerer as long as it's on your spell list. Yeah. And, I reckon in some cases, even if it's not on your spell list. That's how I feel. That's my feeling.
I have very little kind of care about the spell lists as a thing. Like, if a wizard wants to learn a spell that's not on their list, and they come and say, right, okay, we know of this local sorcerer, I want to go and spend time with this sorcerer. That player is wanting to engage with the world and wants to do extra stuff. So I can't see any reason why I would turn around and be like, no, I'm not going to reward you for engaging with the game. Like, you can have a bad spell. I don't care.
Yeah. Like, actually, I love the idea that you just said, yeah, you can have a bad spell, because it kind of implies to me, wizard comes up to you and goes, your player comes up to you and says, oh, my wizard would kind of like to learn knock. And you go, that's a crap spell, idiot. Why would you want to learn?
Like, anytime a player is like, I want to do this thing, I will do whatever I can to make sure that the answer is yes, unless it's going to, be a detriment to the entire party. Then the answer is going to be yes.
Oh, sorry. I'm just obsessed with this caricature of an evil DM I've just painted in my mind. Well, it was if of course you would like to learn knock, you doofus. Now, how do you feel about players making their own spells? What if a player says, I have an idea for a spell? Like, have you ever let a player homebrew a spell?
Yes, I will let my players homebrew as long as they bring it to me first, and I will usually workshop it with them. Oftentimes, I will make small tweaks, even if I don't think they necessarily need to be made. I will suggest something to make sure the players kind of fully understand that they can't just make an idea and it's just going to be defaultly accepted.
Wait, so you just flex?
No, they'll bring something, and I'll be like, well, I'll take them on kind of like the mental journey. I'll be like, what if we change? What would happen if we changed this to this? Okay, yeah. What would the effect of that be? How would that change your intention? And even if we end up not changing anything about it, the suggestions make them kind of show their work, and then I think it makes all of us better homebrewers, because we're looking at it from the point of view of, okay, how does this compare to the other things? And it's kind of exercising those muscles.
That's a good point, because I bet there are some players out there that'll be like, hey, Dungeon Master, I've invented this great spell. It's called Win. So what happens is power word win. So if I cast this 4th level spell, we win the combat. What do you think? Can I have it?
Perfect.
Look at perfect.
Just gather yourself, get yourself a magical amulet and fill it with the souls of 1,000 creatures, and you can cast that spell once. Absolutely.
Beautiful. You can cast that spell once. Also, it ends the campaign, because I don't want to play with you anymore. Goodbye.
Yeah. I wouldn't say there would be consequences.
Yeah. Every time you cast that spell, I slap you. Now, we need a tip. I was having too much fun talking stuff. Because the tip might just be, yes, I think you can do that.
The tip should be, you should always encourage and accommodate the players to do like extra training, because that's what I view it as. You're going to someone to train to get extra resources or extra abilities. And I'm all for players just being able to do that all the time. So if you want a feat, but it's not, level 4 or 8, spend some downtime training with someone and you spend some gold for that training, you can have the feat.
Yeah, man, you are speaking my language. Those are my feelings. You did it. Hey, should we roll for promotion?
Let's do this thing.
Woo.
And we have rolled, and we are now in promotion town.
Oh, this is brilliant. Hey, normally when we enter whatever, we don't even know what this segment is called. Did you know that we change the name every time?
Every time, but that's what makes it fresh.
It's not fresh, it's terrifying. Schrodinger's promotion. What's in here? It's full of dead cats. I have a question. Normally I lead this segment. I go like, oh, this is how you support us and stuff. Do you want to do it this time? Why don't you do it?
Okay,
I'll take the lead. Okay. This is your shot. Take your shot, kid.
So for everyone listening at home, pretend that small little segment of talking didn't happen, and this is the first you're hearing after with that dice roll sound effect. If you want to support us at no plan, no problem, the best way to do it is by leaving us those juicy 5-star reviews and updates across the various social media. It really helps push out our engagement. It helps show other people that we are worthy senpai and they should listen to us. And if you want to give us even more support and help us pay the bills, keep the lights on, and, occasionally feed Matt, then you can support us over on Patreon, where you'll get access to things like our pre-show, which is where we get warmed up and ready for these recordings. That came out a little bit weird. We're just going to sail straight through it. And we also put extra content from things like StatsTown up there as well. You'll find all the links to those wherever the links are on whatever platform you're using. Nailed.
Hey, That was pretty good. That's pretty good. You left out one thing though. Let me just swoop in here, like a what swoops? My metaphor's
an
failing.
eagle, a hawk, a pelican.
I don't know. I almost want to leave this town. No, okay. Let me say what I was going to say. If we've missed anything in our analysis of wizards today, before this or after this, hey, leave a comment downstairs in the YouTube comments. We love to hear from you. We don't get a lot of comments, but when we do, Anto and I both like wake up bright and early in the morning, bushy-tailed. We go, turn to our spouses. We go like, we got a comment. Did you see it? And they say, go back to bed. It's 4 a.m. Why are you showing me this? And we have to be like, oh no, okay, we'll go back to bed quietly. But you could do that to us, just leave a comment. All right, let's get the hell out of this zone.
So, Matt, we're out of the zone. Where are we now?
Good.
What are we doing?
We are. Oh, dude, do you smell that in the air? Like that real fresh feeling, like this countryside feeling of. I think we're nearing Statstown, like the Statstown hinterland. Mm-hmm. I don't know what they grow around here. They got a lot of horses. Now, in Statstown is a segment where you and I try and build stats for something. Mm-hmm. Wait, I actually don't think we're doing Statstown. I think we're doing stuff to steal.
We are doing stuff to steal. I didn't want to rain on your parade. I thought you were going to lead us from Statstown into stuff to steal.
Okay, wait. Cool. Let me roll with it. Okay, so. In the fiction, we're in Statstown. Okay, so we're in Statstown, and then we turn to the right. Oh, it's Stuff to Steal, the other segment that we're meant to be doing. So we go over to Stuff to Steal. Stuff to Steal is a segment where we look at a media franchise or something out there in the world, and we go, I'm going to take that. That's ours. We're going to import that into D&D. And I want to look at wizards from Lord of the Rings. Because if you recall, there was a famous wizard in Lord of the Rings called Bilbo. No, yes. Gandalf. There were a few wizards in Lord of the Rings. There was Gandalf the White. Wait, Gandalf the Grey, later the White. There was Saruman the White, later Saruman the Many-Coloured. There was Radagast the Brown. And then there was someone the Blue who never appeared.
Blue wizards.
Really? Mm-hmm. Really? Have you read the deep lore?
I've not read the... my relationship with Lord of the Rings is very strange. I've not read the deep lore, but I am familiar with a lot of the deep lore through osmosis.
What? That's a spell,
Yeah.
Now, who are the Blue Wizards? Tell me about them.
They were never named. I believe that they ended up going out east to kind of like the Easterling territory and interacted with like the Haradrim. And I think it's alluded to that one or both of them may have been corrupted over the course of their journeys out there in the east, beyond kind of the visible map of Middle-earth.
Okay. That's full on. Now, like wizards in Lord of the Rings, they are pretty much angels, aren't they, right?
Yes.
They are not descendants, but they're agents of God or some kind of greater power, inflicting the will and maintaining balance in the world.
Yeah.
So Gandalf is like an immortal, I guess.
Yes.
Now, you've seen the movies, though?
Yes, I have.
Yes. Do you remember Gandalf casting spells in the movie?
So Gandalf doesn't cast spells in the movie in the way that most kind of D&D players would recognize, with one exception, I think. I think when they are in Moria, he utters an incantation to light his staff. That's the only time I think we hear him speak a spell.
Yeah, that's his only spell.
The rest of the time, he just does magic. Like, his magic just happens.
Yeah, it's like his magic is just... It's not even plot, you know what I mean? It's more like utility. He has magic that just kind of keeps the story going, like pavement. He casts pavement so that we can keep walking along.
Yeah.
We don't hit every speed bump. Like, oh, we're in Moria. We can't see. I guess the book's over.
Yeah. I think Saruman, by comparison, we see Saruman use incantation-based magic when the Fellowship are going over the Pass of Caradhras. He uses an incantation to bring the storm to kind of snow them in. We see... The way I view it is that kind of spoken magic is much more offensive and direct in Lord of the Rings, and then kind of the a lot of the magic that Gandalf does just kind of happens. He's just like, I'm going to make a bright, shiny light and scare off the Nazgul.
Yeah, that's a really interesting takeaway, because my takeaway was that magic doesn't really exist in spells as like spells as in like I can do this incantation to have this effect.
Yeah.
It feels more like magic is just stuff that you can have happen.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And maybe the degree of that happening is your power.
Yeah.
Like it's a reflection of your will rather than a reflection of any kind of objective truth about the magic, if that makes any sense.
Yeah, yeah. And I don't think that we don't get any indication, I don't think, certainly in the films, which is what I assume we're going to steal from most directly.
Oh, yeah, we're robbing. Yeah.
Certainly in the films, we don't get any inclination that someone can learn to be a wizard. There are wizards and non-wizards, and there is a clear separation. You cannot become a wizard.
Wait, hold up. Galadriel did some magic stuff.
Yeah.
Like she felt pretty magical, girl Galadriel.
But she feels pretty magical from the first instance. I don't think there are any characters that start out distinctly mundane that end up magical.
True.
And that's what
I think Aragorn cast that one spell. Wait, no, he didn't. No. Sam? No, wait. Pippin? I'm pretty sure Pippin was a warlock. No.
Pippin is absolutely a warlock.
Well, what can we learn about wizards in Dungeons and Dragons from these 4 to 5 wizards in what you call Lord of the Rings? Like they are the only magic people, really.
Yeah, there's magic in the elves, but I think that is just kind of a thing of the elves. I think that for me, one of the most interesting things about wizards in the Lord of the Rings is how just everyone is kind of aware of them. So there are very few people that Gandalf meets that are introduced to him as a wizard that they are like, oh, that is a shock. I am surprised. I do not know what a wizard is. Even though there are only like 4 or 5 of them, everyone has this just kind of understanding of wizards are real, and there is one in front of me. And despite the fact there are only like 4 of them in the world and they can cast magic, I'm just going to treat him like a completely normal dude.
That is true. And in fact, like some people almost treated Gandalf with disdain. Like when he comes to Hobbiton in the Shire, he's a troublemaker because he disturbs the peace. Or when he goes to visit Theoden in Rohan, it's I know that Theoden's being whispered to by Wormtongue and corrupted. He's treated with distrust there.
Yeah.
Like, is there something in this about making magic rare? Because it might seem stupid, but I think that Lord of the Rings is a low magic setting, right?
Yeah, I think that Lord of the Rings is, certainly by today's kind of D&D standard, exceptionally low magic.
Yeah, like they found one magic ring and everybody just lost their shit over it.
A magic ring and 2 magic swords in the principal films that have quantifiable like power to them.
Can you do me a favor? Do you have D&D Beyond open right now? Because I would really like you to just look up a ring of invisibility and tell me what rarity that is in D&D. See if it's a big deal.
Let's have a quick look.
But while you look that up, I think that maybe we should be working out something about the rarity of magic, and that's what we should be taking from Lord of the Rings.
So Ring of Invisibility is a legendary item.
And I'm sorry.
I think that it is only legendary because of the connotation connected to Lord of the Rings. Because invisibility isn't that big of a spell that I think it warrants a legendary item with the ring. I think that is only that rare for the connotation.
I bet it used to be uncommon, but then like Christopher Tolkien has sued them or something. Hey, come on, it's got to be legendary.
You can't have more than one.
They can own one ring to bind them, and it's legendary.
But no, I think that kind of taking that approach of rare magic, it's a good takeaway to have from Lord of the Rings, because it makes, if magic is rare, then magic is special, and it means I view it as a really good way to separate player characters from non-player characters. Is kind of the majority of non-player characters aren't going to be magical. That kind of magical connection is what makes adventurers adventurers.
Yeah, I think that's a really good idea, especially because, yeah, the players are meant to be special. That'll make them feel special. If you go, hey, you are the only person in the world that can do knock or something, they'll love it. They'll be knocking everything. They'll be knocking stuff off shelves like they're a cat. Okay, well, is that our tip? Is that our second tip?
What, make magic super rare?
Yeah, I guess. Or like play with the rarity, or even just consider the rarity of magic.
Yeah, consider the rarity of magic.
Yeah, okay, good. Oh man, we're really doing a podcast today.
We are.
I think that you have the next question lined up as well, a final question that we're going to pursue here today.
I do, and the adventurer helping us on this particular one is V2 Blast, I believe. No, it's user 28059. That's much less dramatic. So
that's the worst username.
Yeah. Over in the RPG Stack Exchange, and they're saying, does requiring material components for spells make 5th edition more challenging or cumbersome?
More challenging, more cumbersome. Okay, those are interesting words. Because more challenging, more cumbersome. Challenging, like, does it make it harder for the players? Do they have to strategize more?
Yeah.
More cumbersome, as in like more boring and like less fun. That's how I feel cumbersome.
Yeah.
No, I think.
Yeah.
Maybe.
I think it's going to depend on your players and how the DM wants to approach it. But I think that there is material components can be such a source of drama if you are using them. And if you are kind of using them thoughtfully, you can get so much juice out of a material component for a basic spell.
Should we clarify what a material component is?
Yes. So for the process of spellcasting, usually you have several different components you have to meet. You have a verbal, which is the spoken, the somatic, which is the movement of the hands, and then material, which is some kind of physical item or items required to cast the spell. The majority of them can be found in a component pouch, which is a piece of equipment that you can buy and has little pieces of herbs and knickknacks that you can use in spellcasting. But then more powerful spells require specific components that are either consumed or not, but they are very specific, and you have to have that very item to be able to cast the spell.
Yeah. But like D&D has... So it has that requirement for casting spells, but it also has built into it a workaround.
Yes.
And I might have this wrong. The workaround is either the spell casting focus itself or the materials pouch, because I think a materials pouch is just a kind of catch-all for all of the non-rare, non-very special spell components. Like if your spell says, in order to cast Heat Burrito, you must have the spell component of a basil leaf. Then, even if you don't specifically say that your component pouch has a basil leaf in it, you go, well, no, I have a component pouch, so of course I have a basil leaf. I want to heat my burrito.
It's assumed that every item that doesn't have a gold value attached to it in the material components can be found in your component pouch. But if
it's massive. It's a backpack.
Yeah. If you use a spellcasting focus, I believe you just don't need to use material components at all.
Oh, yeah, right.
And I really don't like spellcasting focus or foci or arcane foci. I really like material components. I think that they're a great piece of flavor that having that easy workaround means that most people are going to be like, well, I just don't want to have to do this extra legwork, so I'm just going to choose that. And you miss out on lots of little moments.
That's true. That is true. And it's probably because of words and questions like this one that use the word cumbersome, right? Because even though you can use material components without using a spellcasting focus, you can go, no, my warlock does have like an amber crystal that they use to cast the Eldritch Blast or whatever the hell you need for it.
Yeah.
some people probably think like, well, now my character has to have an amber crystal, but any DM can just hand wave it and say like, yeah, of course you're a warlock. Of course you have the things to cast your spells.
Yes.
And like, it's such a, imagine you were describing your character performing their actions to an artist and they were going to paint a pose. Do you want a painting of your warlock pointing a stick at somebody, or your warlock channeling their bloody chakra through this amber crystal that they pulled out of a gorgon skull or something, you know?
Exactly. Like that. You want there to be interesting things happening when you're casting spells, and the material components make a difference to that. So if a caster wanted to cast, let's just say, Ice Knife, they have to have a drop of water or a piece of ice to do that. That gives you as a player something to work with when you're casting the spell, and instead of just being like, oh, I cast Ice Knife, you can describe them kind of getting their water skin, putting some water in their hand, and then summoning that icy knife to fire out, and it helps everyone visualize the magic and get more involved in the process of kind of roleplay in combat specifically, that I think you miss if you're just like, I hold up my spellcasting focus and cast Ice Knife.
Can I articulate this into a tip? Because I think I've got a good example here. So my example is, if anybody's ever watched Critical Role, in the second season, I can't remember his name, Liam, the fellow that plays Caleb, the wizard, he describes every spell he casts with the material components.
Yeah.
And it's gotten to the point where he even has signature moves with signature components, where he pulls out the component and I go, he's going to cast that spell because I recognize the component. So my tip would be, in the same way that like fighters and barbarians and rogues and stuff are encouraged to like describe their flourishes and their attacks, and like with these great combat theatrics, you can use components to be your spellcasting equivalent of those theatrics as you pull off these witchy vibes and these special mystical components that are intrinsic to your spellcasting and your attacks and your character. It's a great way to characterize your character and really personalize your combat.
Yeah, I think that's exactly right.
Now, did you write that down, every word, every single word? Did you write it all down?
Every single word, wrote it all down.
This guy's good. He's so good. Everyone's got to get one of these guys. Hey, could you please recap the tips for us?
Yes.
Personal scribe.
Tip number 1 was spend your downtime as a player learning new skills and abilities and feats and spells. Tip number 2 was to consider the rarity of magic as a dungeon master and what impact that's going to have on your world. And then tip number 3 was to describe your magic through the lens of the material components. So add flavor to your spellcasting using the material components as a starting point.
Ah, very fun. Hey, quick question. Have you ever played a wizard?
I don't actually think I have played a wizard. Not just a full-blown wizard.
Yeah, they're actually my favorite class. I'm really glad we got to talk about this. Hey, this has been really fun. My name has been Matthew Perkins. You can find all my stuff over at matthewperkins.net.
And my name is Anto. You can find all my stuff at icarus-games.co.uk.
Now, the song that plays us out every week is called All Together by a band called House Hats. Don't forget to leave a YouTube comment, check out our Patreon, and thank you so much for watching. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.